long ago, and I think that the fact that the Obama administration has done some of that and required some of that really has to do with the laws that we passed here in Connecticut and some of that early work. So I do believe that it is important. The reality is that the mayor has the bully pulpit and can use that. You know, unfortunately, unlike New York City, we can't pass those laws. They're passed at the state level, but the mayor of a city like New Haven, and I would say even other cities like Hartford, ought to have something to say about the quality of food that the population has access to, and the part of the population that the mayor is responsible for. The kids in school and really the elderly who receive a lot of their meals in our senior centers. So absolutely, I believe that the mayor has an obligation to use the bully pulpit to move food justice forward.
Anyone else want to go?
I've had a lot of conversation with the Food Policy Council about this very issue and what the mayor's influence is. And yes, bully pulpit is important, but there are things that the mayor can do to ensure that quality of food is improved for our children. And my spirit with this would be to focus on information being available to people, things like what we have seen the Obama administration do about the nutritional standards and calories, but also what prioritizes our kids' health. We can do things, and other cities have done this, like have a healthy food zone around schools. We have a lot of schools in New Haven, and kids are going around the corner to corner stores. They're making a lot of money selling those kids chips. And we can implement zoning changes to require those areas to serve only healthy food. We can improve access to, for example, breastfeeding in the workplace through city ordinances.
Yes.
We can regulate the ice cream trucks, and I know this isn't the most popular thing for the kids, but I get calls all the time from parents who are fed up with ice cream trucks standing out and parked outside of school and tempting their kids with all kinds of ice cream. We can do a lot as a city, not just telling people about the problem, but acting on the problem, and those are things I think we should do.
I think we have to show people the harms and the benefits of healthy choices and unhealthy choices. As a society, we just can't tell everybody what you can and what you can't do. You know, we are a free country, and I think we have to show the benefits through the Obama administration, our food guideline policy, and bring it to our schools and bring it to our parents and making them aware of what they are doing and how it's causing diabetes, how it's causing high blood pressure, how it's causing stroke, and letting people know more, more educate them. The more people are educated about the damages that bad food will do to them, the more they will be unlikely to do it.
I do think there's the ability, certainly as Senator Harp said, to have the bully pulpit. But I also think, as Justin Elson said, that there are very specific things we can do using zoning. So I'm going to give an example that's unrelated to food. There used to be a very problematic bar across from Hill House High School, where there was often violence and problems that spilled out into the neighborhood. And I was able to use zoning as the zoning enforcement officer for the city to shut that bar down, to take away a nuisance from in front of one of our educational institutions. So I think there's things like that we can do to be quite aggressive. On the other hand, I think there are opportunities for partnerships that a mayor can lead. And so I would use an example, this example. Gateway Community College, the new Gateway, has an amazing kitchen facility for training people to engage in the culinary arts. I think there's a real opportunity to work with Gateway to get them to make that available when students are not there, so that we can teach community members who are interested how to cook in a healthy fashion. And I think there are real opportunities to expand the way Gateway is used in our city for culinary services, and think about that much more broadly.
So, being a mayor
means making tough decisions that aren't always popular. And quite honestly, I applaud the efforts of Mayor Bloomberg. I think that he understands the issue is real. It's concerning the safety of his residents. Particularly we look at the area of, we look at how diabetes, hypertension, and high blood pressure are impacting so many people and taking so many lives. So I applaud him for taking on that challenge. I think that ultimately it starts with parents and educating their children. I think it starts, and I think that we miss that step sometimes. And you know, we can go back as far. I think the city can find a way to collaborate or to work hand in hand with OBGYNs and pediatricians, and really promoting this message of healthy, this healthy lifestyle that we're trying to promote. And I think if we start there, from the womb to the time those kids reach elementary school, I think that message is very clear. We give parents the platform that they need to start promoting for their kids to live a healthy lifestyle as they move forward in life.
Thank you. The next question is on economic development. And if the first person to answer will be Mr. Zulu.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ramon Brown, and I'm a rising senior at New Haven Academy. New Haven's food sector employs more than 35,000 people in food production, manufacturing, preparation, and serving, comprising 11% of the jobs in the greater New Haven area and 17% of the new hires in 2011. From Mill River to Mayoral, Baseball Avenue to Grand Avenue, the commercial districts of our city hold many opportunities for food business development. As mayor, how do you support both large and small food business groups?
I will talk with businesses and make sure they hire our citizens and our young people first. Because that's what's going wrong in New Haven. And we have to train, educate our kids how to do the job. You know, how to plan a garden, how to work for business services, how to come to work looking like a professional, how to be respectful, how to know how to get along with the customers, and make it more, give businesses more incentive to hire from our city. Because that's the number one problem in our city. Too many people don't have too many jobs. And making people aware of where these jobs are at. You know, and also making sure they have the skills to do the job. When they go there, what they have to do, they have to know what to do. Because in today's life, you got to have a skill to do a job. You got to know what you are doing. And you got to be educated on this.
Henry Fernandez.
When I was Economic Development Administrator, I worked very hard to build out a particular segment of the food industry in this town, which was the restaurant business here. Worked hard to bring restaurants into the 9th Square, to renovate restaurants on Grand Avenue, to bring Sandra's Place restaurant into downtown, in addition to the one on Congress Avenue. To open up a couple of restaurants on Dixwell Avenue. So I think I have a pretty good track record with regard to that segment of the food industry world here in New Haven. I mentioned before, I think the seafood industry here needs a much better marketing job. It needs a city that's committed to marketing this as one of the great seafood producing places in America. And last, I would point to this reality that people often come into the food service industry at the bottom. And we need to think about how do we structure our resources, whether again it's at Gateway Community College or for our high schools, so that people have the ability to come in at the bottom, but have career ladders, so that they can move from working in a kitchen to becoming a chef, or working in a restaurant and then eventually owning one.
Mr. Carolina.
So I agree that there are, as the young man stated, there's between Mill River and West River, there's a lot of undeveloped land. And I think that we need to assess where that undeveloped land is. And obviously we're beginning to move in that direction when we look at what's happening on Route 34. And obviously there's some opportunities there for us to promote small business development within that area as well, as opposed to just looking at the large businesses that are coming in to provide job opportunities. But this is really about supporting small businesses. This is really about what it would take to, number one, make residents aware of how they can start small businesses, number one. Number two, those who are trying to start them, creating workshops that provide support for financial literacy, accounting, job skills training for their potential employees. Mentorship is the other thing that I think is missing. How do we mentor new business owners so that their businesses can be sustained? Financial support for them, and obviously we need an entrepreneurial spirit that starts in the school system, obviously, and continues throughout to our residents throughout the city.
And Tony Hart.
Thank you very much. I actually heard one of us talk about food incubators, and one of the things that we need to do is to actually implement the food incubator. I know we've been looking at that. And so that people can actually build commercial opportunities for themselves in food. You need to look also at our food vending, Sixpence Pie, for example, that has been at the Edgewood Park Farmers Market, started as a vending operation, and it got to be so popular that it is now in the store. It's creating jobs and expanding jobs, and we need to make that kind of opportunity something that is available for others who want to start their food business. The other thing that the city needs to do is to reduce the cost for permits and preferred locations for these types of vending businesses as they start out.
Justin Elliker.
So to attract a business, one of the most desirable things is a ready and skilled workforce. And the city can play a strong role in training our people in New Haven to be ready and skilled. We have cooking classes and culinary classes in our schools, but they're not tied to a certification. We need our kids, as they're leaving schools, if they end up not going to college, having skills in the culinary area so they can get jobs and attract businesses to locate in New Haven. We talked about the incubator as a way to train adult workforce and foster small businesses in New Haven. But what is something that we don't often talk about is why people are coming to shop in New Haven and go to dinner in New Haven. And that's this idea of a sense of place. We need to build on that to make New Haven the place of choice where people go out to eat. How do we build on that? Well, imagine if we close down a street on Saturday and Sunday evenings and allow those restaurants to spill out onto the street. So it becomes a walking promenade where people would be attracted because of New Haven having that actual sense of place. Imagine if Yale students were allowed to use their card in local restaurants instead of just on campus so that they could purchase things in local restaurants. These are things that we need to be implementing as a city to help improve the economy here.
And I'm going to look to Alicia. We are at 7:25. Would you like them to go to their closing remarks? All right. You all have 1 minute, and we'll go back to the rotation, and that will be Henry Fernandez starting off. You're going to figure out that microphone eventually.
Thank you all for coming out and for having, I think, what was one of the most pleasant debates that we've had. And so I guess food policy lends itself to people being warm and fuzzy. That's a good thing. Obviously, I think food is essential to how we define ourselves as a city. I do want to raise one issue because we didn't get the opportunity to kind of discuss at the end of that last question, which is the issue of social justice in the food industry. So we do have wonderful restaurants here, we do have wonderful food manufacturing businesses, but unfortunately, this is an industry that has some of the highest level of exploitation of workers. Right? A lot of the workers are immigrants or poor people from our neighborhoods, so there's a significant amount of wage theft. There's a significant amount of sexual harassment. There's a significant amount of people being forced to work well more than 40 hours without overtime. And so while we need to cherish our food industry, we also need to be sure that the people who work in our food industry are treated as what they are, great members of this city who deserve to be respected and have their
Let me take this opportunity to thank a few people. Obviously, I want to thank Pastor Brooks and his family for having us here this evening. I saw members of the Dixon New Hall, the Senior Citizen Center, here who I invited tonight, and I want to thank them for coming. Very good to see you here. Mayor's Youth Council, I saw members of a few of my students, part of the Mayor's Youth Council, Youth Unleashed, and obviously I've seen some of the familiar faces of the campaign supporters who seem to follow debates in different places. And that's always a good thing because we ensure that the room is full as often as possible because we're not always the most attractive thing, right? But you know, this issue is real to me. When we talk about access to healthy foods, is something that I've lived. As someone who grew up in poverty here in the city, I know friends and families who had to deal with this issue. I've lost loved ones to serious health issues, diabetes, as I mentioned, high blood pressure, and so this is very real to me. It's also real to me in the sense that, you know, just this past summer, I think I was walking the street with Paul Bass, and I had a group of young men stop me on bikes, and they said hi, and they were one of my former students. One of the young men, his parent was addicted to drugs. He was not staying with her. He was being neglected. He was staying with his aunt on her couch, but she did not have the resources to provide the kind of food and basic needs that he needed. This young man was about to ride around the streets, and he was looking for somewhere to eat, that's a way to eat. That's a problem for us, because at some point, if we're not careful, we're going to be staring down the face of a gun if we don't do something to support young people like that.
Tony Hart.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about food. I want to commend all of the advocates who are involved with the Food Policy Council and are involved with food in all of our neighborhoods, whether it be through the urban community gardens and the farmers markets, the garden at Common Ground School. And I just wanted to say that I have been working on food issues since I've been in public life. As alderwoman, I led the effort to require universal free breakfast in city schools. As state senator, I established a program to promote Connecticut-grown food in our schools. I required more nutritious and low-fat options in school vending machines, even though it was vetoed by Governor Mayoral. We finally got it passed. I expanded access for WIC recipients to receive fresh produce, and I worked with Jennifer McKiernan from City Seed to facilitate the ability of farmers markets to take payment through EBT cards. So I think it's really important. It's a food justice issue, which is also a social justice issue.
Thank you. Yes. That's it.
So despite what it might look like, I actually do really love food. And about 2 years ago, my wife and I started our own chicken flock. And so I brought some gifts for my Mayoral colleagues here. My wife's grandparents grew up in Waterbury, and they knew how to raise chickens. But her parents never raised chickens. And the learning curve for us was incredible. We have lost, as our society, our connection with food. And we need to gain that back, not just for health reasons, but for ethical reasons and also for financial reasons. Food fuels our city because food fuels the people that fuel our city. And if our people, not just the people in City Hall, but the people everywhere in our city are not living healthy, productive lives, then we as a society have failed. This is a priority. It must be a priority of our city, and as mayor, I will make it a priority.
I hope you're not promoting the food fight all day.
As mayor, I live in this city, and I see a lot of people go hungry in this city. And I know this is a major issue that's just been addressed. You know, I talked with Jesse, who runs a food thing downtown for the homeless and the helpless. And I said, we got to do more. You know, I see a lot of people talking about what we're going to do for the food kitchens. Only people I really haven't seen doing it is the churches. I think everyday citizens have to step up to the plate. You know, give a can, give some food, you know, be a part of the solution to help our city grow. Because I know that we are all in this together, and united, we can do better. Thank you.
I want to thank the audience for your kind attention. I want to thank the candidates for keeping the eggs in the cartons. And with that, I think you all good night.